Hey, what's up guys? So welcome back to the Fullstack Vue.js crash course. So in this video, I'm going to explain that how we can work with the Vue.js, Node.js as a backend, and we are going to use here MongoDB as a database where we are able to save the data, right? So here I'm going to teach you everything all from the scratch, but first let's gonna go into the demo first. So we have a very basic listing where we have a name, email, contact number, and the designation. And we have also a form where we can create a new contact. So let's gonna create a new one here. So I'm gonna create here do@gmail.com and the contact number, and let's give it the software developer. So if I'm gonna click on the submits button, so this is gonna clear all and the contact edit successfully where we have a toaster notification, all right? And if I'm gonna go to my home screen, and you can see here, we are able to see the new listing, right? And we can also edit this one, and with the help of, let's gonna change that do12@gmail.com and submits that. And once I click on the submits button, so the contact updated successfully, and you can see now it also updated here in the list. And the last thing that we're gonna do here is, if I just want to delete it, there's like a confirmation dialog where you're able to see, are you sure you want to delete? And if I press OK, so the contact deleted successfully. So this is what we're gonna build all from the scratch. I want to explain each and everything all from by line by line, and I hope you guys will love it. So let's jump in and get started in the coding section. Hey, what's up guys? So welcome back to the coding part. So in this video, you're gonna install the Node.js. Make sure you have installed the Node.js version. So depending on the version you have, so either you're gonna use the 20.15.1 or get the latest version, which is 22.4.1. And Node.js is basically the runtime environment to run the Node application. So either you have also an option to use Visual Studio Code as your text editor, whatever the text editor you want to install, and make sure we're gonna work with the MongoDB later. All right, so let's go into the Visual Studio Code, and I already have created here a folder with the name of Fullstack Contact App in my root in my desktop directory, and depends on wherever you're gonna install your project, right? So before we should install that, and we have to go and initialize the npm init, right? So here it's gonna ask the package name, and just leave that one. Version remains the same, so let's give it the name of Fullstack Contact App, and the entry point I want here server.js. Test command leaves it. Git repository keywords, you can get the name of Aviation, and that's all okay. So this is gonna create here the file with the name of package.json and everything that you have initialized with the help of terminal, and this is gonna show up all up here, right? And that's where you have to define your dev dependencies install here when we're gonna install the Express and when we're gonna install the Mongo. So all the dependencies should be like defined here, right, inside the package.json file. All right, so as I define here the entry point file, which is server.js, so let's create here a file with the name of server.js, and that's where everything that I have to define. All right, so I have to use here the Express server, and in order to install the Express server, all I have to use is to npm install Express. So if you guys haven't installed the Express or haven't worked with that before, so basically the Express is the top level layer which help us to manage the routes and the servers. So it makes things a lot much easier to define the routes rather manually if you're gonna work with the Node.js. So things get like a lot of complicated, and it's a lot of code, right? So that's the best thing about the Express server, right? So I'm gonna define here the Express here. So const Express equal to require and Express. All right, so I'm gonna define a very basic server here. So const app equal to Express. And I have to define here the port, which for now I'm gonna run on port 3000, and simply app.listen, and define here the port, and just simply console.log and run our very basic server, right? So server running on port. Let's define here the port variable and saves it. And in order to install, in order to run the server.js file, so I'm going to define node server.js and press enter, and you see now the server running on port. Sorry, it should be on. Right, so now if I just try to update something here and it doesn't work, so I have to close the server and run that again, and now you see now it's updated. So the reason how you're gonna actually resolve this issue, I'm gonna show you some other example, but that makes more sense. So let's go here inside our package.json file and do some changes. So I'm going to close this server again, and I'm going to install the or you can use another terminal if you want. Make sure if it should be installed, but I have to run with the help of nodemon, so I close the server. So let's install the nodemon here, -d, make sure it should be capital and nodemon, right, and press enter. So this is going to install the nodemon for us, and it continuously check the server, like I don't have to refresh, and it automatically updates. So inside the package.json file, inside the scripts, just below the test, I have to define two of the things. So first I have to define here the start. So basically the start of the file, which should be our node server.js, and the other line that I have to have use dev, and make sure it should be nodemon and server.js, and just simply press save, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And as I define here the port, I also need to define here something which is known as .env, which is the environmental file, where we can define our variables like port or connection string. So I'm going to create here a file .env, and in order to access this env file, I have to install the .env here with the help of npm package. So npm install .env and press enter. So this is gonna install the .env, and we can define here with the help of const.env equal to require, and that should be .env. All right, as simple as that. Now we have to define here the environment with the help of process. So process.env .port, and that's very easiest way that you can use. Now what I did here is that if that port, which I have to define here, let's define the port equal to, make sure it should be capital, and so the port that I define inside the environmental variable is if that is available, so it's going to run that port. Otherwise it should be 5000. Make sure it should be different, right? And if it doesn't, like if it's busy or something, so it's gonna execute the 3000, right? And so I have did that, and now let's run with the help of nodemon. So npm run dev. All right, so if I just press enter, so you see that the nodemon is continuously watching the server, right? And if I'm gonna go to my port 3000 to my browser, and let's go and localhost 3000, it says that cannot get the request. And the reason why, because in Node.js we have to define the routes, and also have to define the type of the request. So for now it doesn't know that what actually exists here, right? So we have to define here the cannot get the slash. So in order to resolve this issue, all I have to do is with the help of the app.get, and right here I'm gonna define here the slash, and this is gonna bring us the request and the response. And right inside the request and the response, we have our let's send the response. So I just want to give a very basic message, so get all contacts, right, and saves it. And if I go back to the browser and refresh this, and now it knows that on this root directory we have get the response. And if I just try to make this, you can also make this h1, the ending and the closing tags, and it's gonna makes it the little more bigger in size, right? So whatever you wanna use here, so you can use that, and we don't have to refresh, close the server and run that again. That's the beauty of the nodemon. And we can also define the JSON if we want. So rest.json, and just bring the parentheses in and give it the get all contacts, and just saves it. And if I just try to refresh this, you can also see the JSON as well, right? With the help of JSON. And I also can define here the status, which is the status code. 200 means for the successful HTTP request, and if I saves it and if I try to refresh this, so it all remains the same, right? And you can better use that status code and Vue with the help of Postman, and you can use Tender client library in the VS Code. And so I'm going to use here something known as the Postman, and I'm going to create here a new workspace. So let's create a the blank workspace here next, and give it the name of Fullstack _ content _ app. I don't remember if it exists or not, so let's create that and see. Yeah, it's going to create that. And here, if I'm going to like run the server, localhost port number 3000 / for now just make it simple, so it should be : /, right? And just if I just try to send the request, and you see it's a GET request, and that's where you can see the status code. So Postman is a better representation, and it's widely used. So it's all up to you again, whatever you want to use. So I'm going to set up some environments here. So I have to go inside my environments and set up a new one. So it's always be a convention. You can directly go to the create a new one and just check the request, but I'm going to create something like a better. So just give it the name of Fullstack contact app. That's the name of my environment. And here the base URL, what I want to use here is so base URL, and give it the initial value. It's all up to you, whatever the initial value is. So localhost, and I want to have here the /API. All right, / and it's good. The current value should be the same. So this could be our base URL, right? And just simply save that one and go back to the request and change that no environment to the Fullstack contact app, right? And I also have to create here the collections right inside here. So what I'm gonna do here is create a new one and go into the collections, and inside the collections I'm gonna give it the name of context, and simply saves it. And right inside the context, if I go back to the request that I have, and if I just saves as, and this is the context, and I'm gonna change that one to, let's bring this context, right? It's already here. So Fullstack _ contact _ app, and that's the collection name. So I'm gonna change the request name to so first I have like a GET request. So the convention that I follow is the capital GET, and this request is for the GET all contacts, right? And just simply saves it. All right, so you see here now this looks much better to me, right? And I'm just gonna skip this one, and if I just simply use here double parenthesis and use base URL, you can also do that, right? If I just hover over it and you see /localhost /API. And one thing that I missed here is it should be localhost port number 3000, so I have to go back to my environment. Okay, so it should be localhost port 3000, and that should be also port 3000. All right, and just simply saves that one. Now if I go back to my collections and check this out, and if I hover over it, so it's /API port number 3000 /API. So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code, and if I just want to use and change the request to /context, so already the it should be /API /context, and if I saves it and go back to my Postman and change that to /context and saves it, so it says that 404, and I have to check it should be localhost 3000 /API. And yeah, basically this slash is coming here, so again I have to go and change the environments. Yeah, so it shouldn't be slash here at the end. Yeah, right here. Okay, so it saves it, and if I go back to the collections and send the request, and you see here that like we can see with the help of the environmental setup, we don't have to like type that again request in. So this is the one of the get requests that we're gonna do now. You can see the status code as well, right? So let's go back into the VS Code and do more stuff. And what I'm gonna do here is, let's me create here a folder with the name of routes, and right inside the routes I'm gonna create here the file with the name of contact routes.js. It should be .js. All right, so right inside the routes.js, I have to define the router. So in order to define the router, what I'm going to do here is first define the express. So const express equal to require express, and next we have to define the router equal to express dot router, and right next to it I have to define here router dot route, and inside here you can also do, so what I'm going to do here is let's go inside the server.js file. So I just want to grab everything from here, just cut this out, and I just want to remove this one. I don't need that, and I also need to just simply cut this out, everything from here, and saves it. And let's go back here inside the router.route. So first we have to define here the slash. That means that we have to check that what route URL should be, and just simply saves it. And you can see that we are actually bringing up here the status code and a message. And if I go to my server.js file, so all we have here is the app.get. And the reason why, because if you're gonna see here is, we also have to define .get, what kind of request that we have. So .get, so simply bring up here the bracket .get, and that's it. All right, so I saved it. So it's also defined the what kind of request method we have, and type of the request, which is get. And if I go back to my server.js file, so I have to, regardless of get request, we have to use something which is known as U, which is basically the middleware for it. And as we have defined here the routes here, we also have to define the path. So require, and it should be ./route/contact routes, and saves it. And still it's not gonna work because we have to also export our route. So if I go back to my context route, and let's define here module.exports equal to router, and saves it, and there we are. So remember that this all coming from here /API/context. So if I go back to my Postman and try to execute this, so we see the same stuff here, right? And as we are defining here the CRUD operation, we have to do a lot of other like create, read, update, and delete. So I'm going to copy this one and like bring more for here. And right inside here, let's make this the create new contact. This should be a create new contact and get contact. And I just want to remove these double ticks to the backticks, because I have to show here the ID. So it should be $request.params.id. So the reason why I bring up here, because we need to find the ID, and it should be /:ID, and same case for the update. So it should be /:ID, and make sure it should be a put request. And I also forget to bring up here the post requests. All right, and status code should be 201, and for my get contact, that should be the same for all. And I'm gonna copy this one and bring up here for my, this should be update contact, and last one I want it for the delete request. So this should be delete, and make sure it should be delete contact, and also change a little message here. So update contact for the ID and also get contact for. All right. So I hope we are good to go for now, and let's first check these requests into the Postman. So I'm going to go back to my Postman and duplicate the request. I have to actually duplicate 5 requests. So duplicate that one and also duplicate the last one. So first I'm going to change the name of the request. So it should be a post request, and here I'm going to create the create contact. All right, so it should be a create contacts, and I'm going to change that to get only single contact. So make sure it should be a singular get contact, and the type of the request which should be the same get. And also change that if I go to my create contacts and also change the post, because this could be a post request, and saves it. So you see now it's a post request. This should be a get request, that's fine. And I also want to bring up here slash, it should be the slash contact slash ID, which should be, for now just bring this one. And also for here it should be slash contact, just the difference of the type of the request, which is post. So if I just saves it, it shows us 404. Actually I have to bring here one more thing. It should be a base URL. That the reason why I bring up here the environments, we don't have to type all of the same things. Now if I sense the request, now you see that it's a create new contact, and same for the get contact. I have to remove this one and bring here the base URL. It should be slash, and let's bring here the slash contact, and it should be the ID. So simply get contact for 1. So I'm going to change that as well. So it should be delete. So it should be update contact, and the type of the request should be put. All right, and let's change that to put request, and again it should be a base URL slash contact slash 1. So update contact for 1, it's working, and the last one is the delete request. So simply rename that to, it should be a delete one. So delete contact. All right, and make sure it should be delete one. Just simply remove this one and bring here base URL slash contacts slash 1, and if I just try to send the request and delete contact for 1, right? All right, so now we are done with the request. So I'm going to create here a controller with the name of controllers, the folder. It should be in the smaller case, and make sure we have to create here a file inside that, which should be contact controller.js. All right, so this is the file, and here I'm going to define the logic. So if you see here contact routes, that's the routes, and we have to define that logic. So whatever the logic that we have, like we have to update, delete, and we have to get all the contacts and create a new request. So this all should be into my controller. So the logical part should be inside the controller. So first I'm going to give a very basic description here. So let's give it here the description. So this, the first route is for the get all contacts, and I'm also going to define my routes here. So we have like a get request with slash API slash contact. That should be the route name, and I want to give the access to be public, means that it should be accessible from all the sides. And so what I'm going to create here a variable with the name of get contacts equal to, and this is going to take the request and the response. What I'm going to do here is, let's go into your contact route and just simply grab this all from here. So I'm going to grab this all from here and move the brackets, and I just want to paste it all up here. All right, so it still doesn't gonna works because we have to actually I have to define here the get request. That should be here, right? So dot get, and the router dot get. It should be like this, yeah. All right, so it just saves it, and if I go back to my contact controller, I don't need to hear the request. It should be a simple request and the response, and that's it, and just saves it. All right, now we have to export that in order to use that. So module.exports equal to, sorry, it should be module.exports equal to, and I'm going to define here the get context and saves it. So it's still not going to work because we have to define that controller inside the routes as well. So let's gonna go here and define here the guest path for the controller. So here I'm going to define here the get context. So from and it should be equal to require. Yeah, make sure it should be we are working with the node, and let's define here the path for the controller. So // controller / contact controller, and saves it. All right, so now I'm going to copy this variable and just simply define here and saves it. And now if I go back to my Postman, and first I'm gonna save my all requests and go to my collections and get all contacts, and also save this request. And if I'm gonna send this, and you can see still we are able to see get all the contacts even though we put all the logic inside the controller. And so I'm gonna do the same thing for all of them. So let's gonna copy this all from here, and I'm gonna paste it down here. Even just copy this all and paste it for the create new request. So for the create request, I'm going to do here is change the description. So create new contacts, and it should be /API /context. No need to change that. The only change is the is a type of the request, which should be post, and make that public. All right, and here I'm going to change the name of the variable, which should be a create contact with a singular. All right, and the response dot status should be I'm going to change the status request for the create, which is 201, and here I'm going to change the message, which should, you can easily grab it all from here. So I'm going to cut this out and go back to the controller and just simply replace that with the create new contact. All right, and I'm also go back to my contact routes. So I'm gonna just simply remove this request in the response, and it should remain the same. So let's go for the I'm gonna do next for the get contact to get the single contact list, right? So I'm gonna copy this back again, all of the request, and paste it. So this is gonna be the next one gonna be get contact. So let's make that get contact and request in the response. This should be a status of 200, and you can also get this all from same to the contact route. So let's grab this one. So I'm going to cut this out and go back to the contact controller and paste it here. And same for the update. I'm going to copy this one and change that to update contact, and here the type of the request should be put. All right, so it should be put request, and the route should be also changed. It should be /API /contact /:ID. So in this case, as you could see that it's very important to like have the ID in order to update the request. So I'm going to change the name of the variable, should be update contact. All right, saves it, and this should be a put request. Again, the access should be public. And now the last thing that I'm going to do here is for the delete contact. So let's copy this up and change the type of the request, should be delete. So I'm going to delete the contact. Sorry, it should be delete, and this should be a smaller one, not the capital. So delete contacts, and here the route should be the same. So /API /contact /:ID. So you notice, you see that like if I'm going to update the contact, or if I'm going to delete the contact, I'm going to change the name of the variable, should be delete contact. All right, so basically all we need is to have like the ID, right? It's very, very vital to have here the ID. And so contact deleted for, I'm going to change that message. So contact deleted for, saves it. And also get contact for, this is going to be a update contact for this request, and I think we are good to go. So we have our delete contact, we have our update contact, get contact. So we are almost done with the controller part. So let's go here, and I'm gonna first export all the controller variables here. So let's go down here. So first we have the get context, next we have our create contact, and next we have our get a single contact and update contact, and the last one should be delete contact. All right, so we like export all of them, and let's define inside the contact route. So it should be a get contact. So same thing here. So create contact, and we have our get contact, update, and the last here delete contact. So once we're gonna do up with all here, I'm gonna just gonna remove this all, the request and the response, and same for this one. So do this for all, right, for the delete as well. So I'm gonna remove all of them, and what I'm gonna do here is just simply define here the variable here. So it should be a create contact for the post request, and here for the single get contact it should be a get contact, and for the put, so it should be update, and for the delete it should be a delete contact. All right, and saves it. So now if I just want to go and see my Postman, and I'm gonna send the request for the get all request, it's all working fine. Now if I'm gonna go to my create contact and send the request, and you see now we're able to still see the same thing that we can see right inside the route. So we basically separate the logic. All right, so things are still not done, and I'm gonna use here the create contact, which is basically the post request. So we have to define here something which is known as the request a body. So basically, in order to, because we need to submit the request, so I'm gonna go inside my body, and here I'm gonna use here the raw. So first define here the raw body here. So before I should define the JSON here, I need to change the type from the headers. So I'm gonna go right inside here and choose the headers and make that content type to be application/JSON. So content type, and make that to be application/JSON. All right, now if I go back to my body, and now I can easily define the JSON. So first parameter that we have is like name. So I'm going to define here John, and let's define here the email. It should be john@gmail.com, and for the phone, let's define here the 555, and the last thing that we have is the designation. So let's define the designation to be IT specialist, and let's save this request. And if I'm going to send the response, so it's still gonna say is that 201 created that. Now in order to check this request that what we typed, I need to go back to my Visual Studio Code, and right inside my controller, what I'm gonna do here is let's first console the log and check the body request. So I'm gonna define here console.log and make that request.body, and saves it. All right, now if I go back to my controller and check the type of the request that we have. Now inside the Postman, I send the request and go back to my Visual Studio Code, and you see that it's undefined. And the reason why it's undefined, because in Node.js we have to use middleware, which is basically for the create request, which is the body parser. So whenever we have like a post request and we have to submit the request and parse it, so we have to use something known as the middleware, which is the body parser. So in order to use that body parser and get the request, and so we have to define that right inside our server.js, right? And inside server.js, let's define here the very basic one. So it should be you can define their app.use, simple as that. You have used down for the routes, and for in this case it should be express.json. So we have to parse into the JSON object notation. All right, and just saves it. Now if I go back to my contact controller, and now if I just try to check the request from the Postman and sends a request, and you can see right inside so it shows the empty request body, and I have to check that it should show the request that we have in the Postman. So let me go back to the Postman and check what we have. So we have like the 201 created, the status code is fine. And let me check back to the headers. Maybe there is some issues with the headers. Yeah, so it should be application/JSON. I just missed right type here. So it should be application/JSON. And now if I send the request, and now you can see that it shows you the request body, right? So the name, email, phone, and the designation. All right, so this is how you can do with the help of body parser. All right, so next step that I'm going to do here is we have to work with the validation. So definitely we need to validate our data, the mandatory fields. So in my case, the all fields are required. So what I'm going to do here is, let me just remove this one from here. And here I'm just going to define my very basic request. So what I'm going to do is const and do some destructuring and define name, email, phone, and the designation. All right, and let's give it the request dot body to all. And next I'm going to define here the if conditions that's going to see that either all the fields should be required. So name, email, phone, they all should not be empty. So phone and the designation, let's bring up some space here, right? So it should be name and it should be R, sorry about that. So name, email, phone, and the designation. All right, so here I'm going to show a very basic status code for the validation. So in this case, the status code should be 400, means it should be a bad request. And let's also throw the new error. So throw new error, and just shows the message that all fields are required. All right, saves it. And now if I just gonna go back to my Postman and check this out. So let's send the request, and it should be, the body should be empty. So I'm going to go to my body, and let's suppose if I just want to skip these 3 fields from here and send the request. So it's going to show us the bad request status code 400, and it shows us the title, a very basic HTML structure, and here it's going to show us that unexpected token. And if I'm gonna go to my Postman, yeah, there you go. So if I just send the request back, and it says the all fields are required, and basically we have to show all the required fields that we have. All right, so that's the message you can see here as well, because that was the Postman error. I just missed the request body parameter. And now what I'm gonna do here is let's define here the better way of handling the validation. So what I'm going to do here is, there are like 2 ways. Either we can use the error handling here, or the better way is that we have to use a middleware, which we are going to create here, a custom middleware. Let's create here a folder right inside the root directory with the name of middleware. And here inside the middleware, I'm going to create here a file with the name of errorhandler.js. All right, so inside here, I'm going to create my custom middleware. That's where we're going to show us the message. So I'm going to create here a variable with the name of custom error handler equal to. So this is going to bring us the error object, and we also have the request and the response and next. So this is going to check the next, what we have like in the request. So right inside the error handler, I'm going to create here a status code that's going to check either that status code is 200 or it could be 400, depending on the status code. It's going to show us the message. All right, so I'm going to show if that response has the status code of success, then it's going to work. Otherwise, whatever the status code should be, and otherwise it's going to show us the internal server error, which has the status code of 500. And in order to show the message, I'm going to do here rest.json. So whatever the response we have, so this should be a JSON. So I'm going to define here like this. So message should be, and here I'm going to show the error object has the message. And if I just saves it, and now if I go back to, actually it should be an error function. I missed the arrow here. All right, now if I just saves it and go back to the Postman and send the request, and it still doesn't gonna work because we have to export that. So module.exports equal to error handler. And now if I go to my server.js in order to use that middleware, so I'm gonna do here is, let me go down here and use that app.use and just simply define here the error handler. Yeah, it's gonna automatically import our path. All right, now if I go back to my Postman and send the request, and now you can see that we have our message with the all fields are required. So that's the beauty of everything. Now if I go back and just use the same request, and now if I send the request, so it's going to show us the status code of 201 and create the new contact. All right, so that's how we can handle that. Now what I'm going to do here is, like, we have multiple status code. We have like 201 for the successful, 400 for the bad request, 500 for the internal server error. So I'm going to handle those error handler here. So also the better way of doing is that we can like create a constants. So I'm going to create first here a folder with the name of let's create the file. So constants.js, and in this file I'm going to create different kind of constants. So exports.constants, and I'm going to define here the first, which is the validation error. So validation underscore error, which should be 400. And next we have our unauthorized. There's also, even we are not working with the authentication, but let's define here the unauthorized. So unauthorized has the status code 401 and forbidden. So I'm going to define here different. Either we are working like with the very basic, so not underscore found should be very basic 444, and the server error, that's very common, so it should be 500 right here, and saves it. Now we have to use those constant right inside our error handler.js. But before we should jump into it, I'm going to show you one more that we can also show the stack trace error, which is very important while you're working with the production. You need to check the error. So let's define here the stack trace. So stack trace, and again the error object, it should be dot stack. All right, saves it. And now if I go back to my Postman, I have to remove the request again in order to check this out. All right, so I remove the request and send the response, and you see now it shows everything here that all fields are required, and that's the trace message, stack trace message. All right, so let's go back, and I'm gonna fill my request back to my Postman. And now if I go back here, and what I'm going to do here is, let's define a very better way of doing this. So I'm going to remove this one from here. The status code should be there. And let's create here a variable right inside here, which should be let error title. So whatever the error title we have, let's make that empty. And I'm going to use here switch way. So in the switch, we are going to define our status code, and with the help of constants that we created. So we have a first case, which should be constants, and I have to bring here the import for the constant first. So constants equal to require, and let's bring up here the path for the constants. So it should be a constants, right? And let's define here the constants variable dot, and the first one was the validation error. So validation underscore error, and in this case what I'm gonna define the error title, so it should be validation failed. All right, and it should be a colon, not the, because we are defining the case, right? And next we have to break this one. All right, so this is the first case, and next let's define the case 2, which should be again constants dot, and the next one I want to have here is the not underscore found, and let's define here the error title for this. So error title equal to not found, and let's break this one. Next, what I want to have here is the case, again the constants dot, and for the unauthorized, so the error title should be unauthorized. And just break this one. So next case we have here is the constants dot forbidden, error title equal to forbidden, and break this one. All right, so next we have the case for server underscore error, and it should be error title equal to server error, and break this one. And the last one we have is the default. So for the default case, I'm gonna define here, it should be colon, and right inside the default, I'm gonna define here the error title should be some unknown error if that is other than the status code. So unknown error, and let's break this one, and that's it. All right, so one thing I have to do is like just bring this a little bit, yeah, right here, and that's our proper switch case, and I have to define this message as well for these constants. So let's go down here after this break statement and define, so rest.status, so whatever the status response we have. So let's bring up here the status code and like define the JSON for showing the message. So here inside here, I'm going to define the title should show that error title. And next we have our message that we're going to show, which is error.message. And we can also show the stack trace here. So stack trace, so it should be error.stack. All right, so I think we are good to go, and let's check this out. So here we have like our field, so I'm gonna just remove this all from here and just check this out if the validation works or not with the new response. So it shows that the title, which should be unknown error, it should be validation required, and you can see the message, the stack trace, all is okay. But let me first check that what we have here. So we have our constants, which we have defined inside our root directory, which is this, which is fine, I believe. If I go to my error handler.js file, and yeah, it's fine. And if I just try to check the console.log real quick, that either we are getting the right status code. So if I go to my Postman and send the request and go back to the Visual Studio Code, it shows 400, which is fine. Oops, so it should be constants dot validation underscore error. Make sure you should have to define that, because this is the constant which is coming from here, and dot constants, which is basically this. All right, so make sure you should have to define that inside your error handler. So I'm going to do the same for all. All right, now it shows you the options, and same for here, and that's it. Now if I just gonna go back to my Postman, send the request, and now you see that it shows the validation field, all the fields are required. All right, so that's good. Now if I just go back to my request and send the response, now you see that it shows the message, and as well as we can see inside our, let me first check to my contact controller, either I should, Yeah, if you're gonna check the console.log request.body, so it's gonna show you the request. All right. So that's the very basic error handler, the middleware that we created, which is custom. Now what I'm gonna do next is basically we're gonna work with the MongoDB. So whenever we're gonna work with the MongoDB, we need to have to work with the async await, basically the async operation whenever you're gonna get the request or submits a form using Mongoose. So we need to install something known as Mongoose. So first I'm gonna go to my terminal and I'm gonna type here npm install, and let's install the Mongoose here, right? So this is going to install the Mongoose for us. And also here, the few things which will be changed here, we're gonna have to define here async and await. So whenever you have like a request like this, so we need to define, not here actually, we have to first comment this out. I'm going to comment this out for now. And right inside here, we have to define something known as try catch. All right. And you can do this by defining try catch like this, but there is something which is also known as async handler. We can also install that, but first I'm going to show you the two ways that we can either do with the try catch, and if you're going to use async handler, so this is going to like define the try catch inside using the async handler. We don't need to define in our every single request. All right, so let's gonna go back to our browser, and I'm gonna show you that this is the mongodb.com. That's where you're gonna see this, and I'm gonna sign in here. I'm gonna log in with the Google account. So let's log in with the Google. You can log in with your Google account. So I'm gonna log in with my email address. All right, now I'm just logged in, and you can see I already have the previous project that I created, a demo project for my testing, and now you can go into the new project. Let's create a new one. All right, so let's create a new project with the name of Fullstack _ contact _ app. And if I'm not sure, I already created with the same name. All right, it's done. And add members and set permissions. And you can also gonna change the project owner if you want, and add members. I don't want, so let's just create a project here. It's gonna ask us to create a cluster. So let's create our cluster here. So you're gonna deploy your cluster. There are a lot of packages that you want. So I'm gonna explore the free version. So this includes the storage of 512 MB and it's shared. So here you're gonna change the name of the cluster if you want. I'm gonna make it Fullstack. That's it. And here is the automate security setup. If you want, I'm gonna go with the provider of AWS. And also you're gonna change the region. So I'm gonna, because I live in Europe, so let's gonna change the Stockholm. I'm gonna go with that one, and whatever suits you. So you're gonna like select that region which is closer to you. So I'm gonna create the deployment here. And it's going to take us here, and you can see now it's connection to the Fullstack. So set up the connection security. There are some options. So that's my password and that's my username. If you guys want to change that, I'm going to change that to admin as a username and make the password to be as simple. Let's gonna change that to admin 123. So make sure it should like once you create the credentials, it should be according to the instructions. So I'm going to create a very basic username and password. And let's gonna click on the choose a connection method. It says that the setup your user security permissions below, and this is gonna create the database user, and I have to choose a connection method. So there are like multiple methods, like you have like access your Atlas data using MongoDB, like Node.js and Go. And you're also going to use which is known as the MongoDB Compass, which is basically a tool to check the collections very easily. So you can also use Compass. I'm going to show you in the other videos that how you're going to work with the Compass, but it's a very basic one. It's not that like difficult. You have to install the Compass and you have to get that connection string and put that there, but I'm going to show you. But today we are going to work with the drivers, and here it's the connection string. That's what I'm going to copy it up here and put it inside our environment. So I'm going to copy this one here and make sure the versions 5.5 or later. Now you see a database user has been added and an IP address has also been added. Now I'm going to change the IP address if you want. If you want to change and access it to everywhere, I'm going to go to my network access. And here I'm also going to change the IP. So I'm going to click on the added one and allow access from anywhere and confirm this, and this is going to work. So make sure you have your own connection string and your own IP address. So it's not going to work with mine. All right, so make sure you have to change, and that's the database access, and that's what we have just created, the admin, and this is the MongoDB roles. So these are all the options you have. There are plenty of stuff which you can see from the documentation, but we are gonna stick with the very basic stuff here. So let's again go back to our database, and that's where you can see we have our connections. So these are all the visualization of your data. So we can click on a connect if we want to connect. So let me just show you again. That's where you're gonna get your connection string. All right, so I'm gonna copy this one up here and make sure you have to add your password right inside here. So I'm gonna do this here in the project, right? So let's gonna go back to the Visual Studio Code. We copy the connection string. So I'm gonna go to my .env file and whatever the name you're gonna make it here. So let's give it the connection underscore string as a variable. So connection underscore string. It's always good to have like a capital case in the environment, and let's copy that up here and paste it here. So here I'm gonna change my password to be admin123. So let's gonna bring up here. It should be admin123 and make sure it should be right. Otherwise it's not gonna work. All right, so here right inside my root directory, I'm gonna create here a folder with the name of connection, and that connection is very essential. Without that, you are unable to connect with the MongoDB. So connection, and right inside the connection, I'm gonna create here a file, right click on it and just bring it up, db connection.js. All right, so inside the db connection.js, I have to define here mongoose. Make sure you install that. I already installed using npm install mongoose. So let's define here mongoose. And next here, I'm going to define a variable with the name of connectdb equal to require. It should be async call as I told. So async, and let's bring up here the arrow function and define the try catch. And inside the catch, I'm going to bring up the error, and it's going to show us the error if there is something. So console.log error here, and if we don't, so this is gonna actually miss the bracket here, I believe, and this is the unnecessary bracket. All right, so that's the try and the catch, and I also want to exit the process if something went wrong. So this is gonna exit the process, right? And right inside the try, I'm gonna define the const connect variable, and let's make it await because we are using async await. And right inside here, I'm going to define mongoose.connect. And remember, we are also going to use here the environment. So process.env, that's how you're going to get the environment string, which is the connection underscore string. So process.env dot connection underscore string. So make sure the variable name should be correct. And next thing I'm going to do here is let's console.log to check if our database is connected or not. So database connected, and let's bring up here the it should be connection dot, it should be connect.connection dot and host. And also we have to define here the connect.connection dot name and saves it. All right, so that's what we all need here. Okay, so we have to export our connectdb. So module.exports equal to connectdb, and we have to bring this in the server.js file. So let's gonna go to our server.js file, and just above the express, I'm gonna define here connectdb. And if our connection is correct, so this is gonna bring up here the the connection now. So I've saved it. As I saved it, it's going to show me the error. It says that ConnectDB is not defined, and I have to define up here, which is const ConnectDB. This is the, remember this all comes from the module.export inside our DB connection. So make sure it should be imported in your server.js file. So ConnectDB equal to require, and let's bring up here the connection / DB connection. All right, saves it. Now if I saves it, so still we have some issues inside the code. It says that mongoose.connect got undefined. So the URI parameter to open URI must be a string got undefined. And the reason why I get the issue, I have to define here .config. I missed that .config here. And now if I saves it, and let's go and see, now the database is connected with this connection string, and it's going to show us the test right here. So let's go to the browser. Now we have established the connection, and I'm also going to show you another step that you're going to do here is, these are the browse the collections. You can also browse the collections you have here. So the collections are just like the table. So inside the collections, you can also create your own data if you want. So add my own data. So let's give it the name of database name should be contact_app, and I'm going to go with the collection name. Remember, this is going to be the table name, right? And if I'm going to create this one, and there are other preferences you have. So now you can see, now it's loading our document and we have nothing here. So it's going to show us the query results to be 0. So soon we are going to create a new request. It's going to save and show us inside our table, right? So let's going to do this first. All right, so now first define here the model. Now, whenever you're going to work with the Mongoose, we also have to define our schema, which is basically the model that we have to create. So in our case, which is the contact, right? So I'm going to go to my root directory here, and let's create here the folder with the name of models. And inside the models, I'm going to create here a file with the name of contact.js. Make sure it should be capital C, right? And inside here, I'm going to define here mongoose. So just like this. So mongoose equal to require mongoose. And after that, I'm going to define my context schema. So let's define here. So context schema equal to new mongoose.schema. And right inside the schema, we have like our fields that we have to define. So for the first, we have our name, and make sure the ID should be underscore ID, which is basically the auto incremented inside the mongoose. So type, I have to define here type, and that should be a string. And let's make that required to be true. And you're gonna show the message, please add the contact name. All right, so that's what we need for the name. So I'm going to copy this out for the same thing. So let's copy this up and paste it for our 4 fields. So next we have our email, make this to be phone. Sorry, it should be email, and the type should be string. And I also want to make the email to be unique. So there is another entity, so attribute, which is unique, and define that to be true. All right, so inside the phone, let's change that phone and bring up here phone here, and required is true, everything is fine. Last is the designation. So I'm going to change that designation and copy this up and change the designation here. All right, so that's all we need. And the last thing that is the timestamp. So whenever like we have our fields, so what I'm going to do here is right after this parenthesis, I'm going to define my timestamp. So let's bring here comma and bring the timestamps here. So make the timestamps to be true. All right, it should be true, and saves it, and that's all we need. And we need to export the module. So module.export equal to mongoose.model, and bring up here the model name, which should be contact. And we have to define here the contact schema and saves it. So this is basically the model that we have. Now, as I shown you inside our MongoDB that we have our query results to be 0. So I need to add an entry that we can see inside our collection. So let's first gonna work with the create one, and inside the controllers, inside the contact controller, I'm gonna first define here with the help of async await, and we're gonna create a new request here. So let's gonna do here first way. I'm gonna show you with try catch, and then you're gonna also use the something known as the async handler. So I'm gonna define here try catch, and let's bring up here the error, and I'm gonna copy that everything here and simply show the response dot status to be 500 and show the message that we have, which is the if there is some error, so it's gonna show us here. So let's bring up here the parentheses error, and it should be error dot message. All right, saves it. Now what I'm gonna do here is right inside the after the validation. Now you can see here I have to define the something known as the model, and without the model this is not gonna work. So let's first define here the model that we exported inside our contact.js. Remember, so we export that contact. So inside my contact controller, I'm gonna define here the context. So const contact equal to require, and let's bring up here // models / contact. Saves it, and right after the request, I'm going to define here the model, which is the const contact equal to require. It should be const contact equal to await, as we are working with the Mongos. I told you that it should be an async operation. So let's bring up here async await and bring up here the contact dot create. So these are all the this is the beauty of MongoDB that we can do with the help of contact.create. This is basically the object relational mapper, which help us to make things a lot easier. We can simply create that. So contact.create, and let's bring up here the fields that we have, which are name, email, phone, and the designation. All right, and that's it. And inside the response, what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to show you the message. I just want to show you the contact that we have. So let's bring up here contact and saves it. Now if I go back to the Postman and make sure you have these 4 fields inside your contact, and let's gonna send the request, and it shows the 201 created, and now the name, email, phone, and the designation, and that's the auto increment ID. We also have the timestamps that is created and updated at, and that's a version which is 0. And if I go back to the browser and I'm gonna refresh this, let's gonna refresh this one, the collection, and now you could able to see, and this is gonna show me the test. So the confusion here, I don't wanna make that test. So what I'm gonna do here is, let me first delete this one and type the database test and drop this out. And I'm also gonna delete the this database as also the contact_app. I just want to show you how you're going to change the name of the database. So I deleted that all, and now my collection is all going to remove. And if I go back to my VS Code, and I'm going to go inside my .env file, and you can see also here the database connected automatically. It's going to make test, and in order to change it, let's bring up here just after the slash, I'm going to make that contact_app and saves it. So as long as I saves it and go back to the server.js and saves it, and it will refresh, and you see now the database is connected, and it's going to show us contact_app. All right, so now let's go back to our collection, add my on data, and now make that contact_app. Collection name should be contacts, create that one, and the operation is progress. And there you are. And now the query results again be 0, and I'm gonna hit back to my request again, and it's gonna save. And let me refresh this back again. and most probably you're gonna see the results here, right? So here you see now you have the object ID and the name, email, and the version, right? So that's how you're gonna check the data through with the help of MongoDB dashboard. And now I'm gonna go back and let's work with the GET request. So we are able to work with this one. I'm gonna go back to my contact controller, and regardless of async await and the try catch exceptions, I don't want to use this. I'm going to use something which is known as the express async handler. So I'm going to clear this out and let's install the express async installer. So npm install express dash, it should be express dash async dash handler. And this is going to install the express. So we don't need to look for the this try catch thing, right? So what I'm going to do, let's simply remove this try. I'm going to remove this try, this brackets comes here, and also the exception. So I'm going to remove this try, and then this and that. That's everything you need. And right after the async, I need to use here async handler. And before I should use this, I need to import that one here as well. So let's define, it's all coming from the async handler equal to require, and it's coming from the express dash async dash handler, right? That's it. And right after the async handler, I need to close that one as well. So this is gonna be closed right up here, and saves it. And now if I go back to my Postman, and it shows the duplicate error collection because the email is going to be same. Let's add another entry. Let's add here abnation and make that abnation@gmail.com and make that send the request 201. It says created successfully. Let's go back to the browser, and I'm going to refresh this one from here, and now you're able to see two collections, right? So that's how good is that. So you don't need to work with the try catch for now with the help of the this crap. All right, so I'm going to remove this in the get context, and let's gonna work with a very basic request. So const context equal to, we have to get the request all. So we have a method with the name of find, and just simple as that. I'm gonna just uncomment this one and change the response to context. Let's bring up here context, right? And that's it. So once this is done, and make sure it should be async handler. So I'm going to define here async handler, and it should be async. Make sure we have to define await here as well. So the bracket should be here, and the closing bracket for the async handler. Saves it, and check this out. So I missed this. This should be here. All right, now I saved it, and if I go back to my Postman and get the all contacts, let's send the request, and now you're able to see the status code is 200, and we are able to check all the list of the contacts, right? So that's how we can get all the requests. Now in the case of the get contact, as we need the ID, and we need to bring that underscore ID from here, which I'm going to copy it up here. This is the ID for the john@gmail.com. John 2, right? So we can add that later. So I'm gonna go to my get contact, and let's simply bring up here the ID, and it's still not gonna work because we have to change the controller, the logic. So I'm gonna go here inside the get the contact. So it should be I missed this again, so you can change that to get single contact. All right, and this should be slash colon ID. All right, and it should be a get request. Yeah, I didn't change that, so apologize for this. And now inside the get contact, I'm gonna do here is, let's bring up here something which is find by ID. So let's inside move up here. So const contact equal to await. and contact dot find by ID. It's gonna check if that exists or not. So if it's gonna exist, so we're gonna define that request dot params dot ID. This is gonna get the ID, and as it's the async, we have to define here async, and also we need to define async handler. So it should be async handler, and I have to close this one here. All right, so we define the async handler. So if that exists, if that contact ID exists, so let's bring up here, if that doesn't exist, so I'm gonna show the response.status of 404, and let's throw new error, and shows the message to contact not found. All right, and if that exists, so simply I'm going to change the this JSON to and bring up here the contact and saves it. All right, so now if I go back to my Postman and if I send the request, and you see now we are able to see the John ID and the email, and same case for the other one, and I'm going to copy the AV nation, and let's bring up here the ID and send the request, and you are able to see that we are also going to find the ID. All right, so that's the that's one we have here. And next I'm going to do here is let's going to work with the update context, and the update context, I'm going to grab this all from here, and I'm going to copy this one and paste up here the same logic, and also this should be a async call, and we also need to bring up here async handler, and it should close up here. So the same logic, but the only difference is that it's a put request, and we also have to change the updated contact logic here. So a const updated contact equal to it should be await, and let's bring up here, we have to update, so contact dot find by ID and update. So that's the method that's gonna update and find the ID. So for this case, what I'm gonna do here is let's define here the parameters that we have. So request dot params, so we have our ID that is required in order to update, and also we need to change the body, and this is going to be a new request. So let's bring up here new colon true, make that true. All right, so that's going to be the ID and everything. And now the last thing that I'm going to do is to change the response. So here I'm going to define here the updated contact and saves it. So let's gonna go back to the I'm gonna copy this for the John, get all the contacts. I'm gonna change that John to John to only John, and let's go back to the put request, and I'm gonna put up here the ID. This is what I need to update, and make sure that if you're gonna go back to your headers and make sure it should be content type. Again, make sure it should be the right one. So content type to be application/JSON. Last time I missed the right option. So application/JSON, and I need to go to my body and make sure it should be raw. And let's bring up here the name. Just change the email to be john@gmail.com. And if I just send the request, and it shows us the john@gmail.com, and same case for here. If I'm gonna send the request, it's update the record for us. So now we are able to edit, get all the requests, create a new one, get a single contact, and the last one that we're gonna work with the single, delete the contact ID. So I'm gonna go back to my controller. And it's a very simple thing. All you need to do is to again grab the same logic from the top, that if doesn't exist, it's going to show us the ID, the contact not found. So I'm going to bring this right here, And in order to delete this, what I'm going to define await. Again, it should be async call, and make sure you don't forget to bring up here async handler. And let's close that up here. And I'm going to change the request later, but let's first define contact dot, and in order to delete one, just simply is a request. There are other requests like delete many and delete one, and it's again up to you. We are going to do very basic now. So underscore ID, and remember this ID comes from here. So I'm going to show you, if I'm going to get all the contacts, and that's the ID that we need to delete. So make sure it should be underscore ID. So I'm going to go to underscore ID and the request ID that we have. So request.params.id, and as simple as that. So let's go back and go to I'm going to delete the John, and let's go into the delete context. Let's bring up here the ID and send the request, and it shows that the contact deleted for this ID. Now if I'm going to get all the contacts and send the response, and there is no more. So one last thing that I want to check, if I just bring this ID and just try to get the contact, that ID doesn't exist. So I'm going to change that. Let's remove this and add 4 here and send the request, and now you see that the contact not found. All right, so same case, if I want to go for the delete and update, it's going to show the same. So I just want to check with the delete one, and it says contact not found. So it's all working, right? All right, so we are done with the create, update, delete, and get all the requests. So I hope you guys will love something about this, and this is all the backend that we have created with the help of Node. And in the next video that I'm going to do here is we are going to work with the Vue.js and create our front end. And I hope you guys love this video, and let's jump into the next part.